All right, we are going to start with our post-race press conference here for today's Bank of America Roval 400. We've now been joined by our winning crew chief for today's event, which is Adam Stevens. Congratulations, Adam, on that win.
Thanks.
A little bit of a walk-off win there for your team. We will go ahead and roll into questions. If you have one for Adam, raise your hand. We'll get you the mic, and we're going to start here in the middle with Lee Spencer.
Congratulations. Can you talk a little bit about the decision to make that stop for tires there at the end? I mean, was that kind of like your do or die moment?
Sure. I mean, really, if you look at it, the weekend as a whole, our road course stuff hasn't been where we needed it to be. We felt like we could come here and run 5th to 8th, and that's kind of the little gap we were in, and we needed a caution at the end, and you know, we had to do something different than the cars in front of us. And at the point that we couldn't restart on the front row, the motivation to stay was pretty small. We needed a win, so we had to do the opposite of what those guys were going to do. And had they come and got tires, we would have had to stay. We weren't going to pass them on equal tires. So thankfully, we didn't start too deep in the field, and Bell was able to get a tremendous restart and pass a bunch of cars before we got to the backstretch. So it was kind of a do or die moment, and Bell got up on the wheel and made it happen.
Can you talk about his level of heart and how much blue sky? I mean, you know, clearly you worked a long time with Kyle, but how much blue sky does this kid have ahead of him?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, because if it's just on pure talent and ambition and dedication, he can win as many races as he runs, because he has so much skill, and there's not a place we go that he's not capable of winning. And there's nothing that you ask of him that is delayed or out of reach or something that he doesn't want to do if it means getting better. So the sky is definitely the limit. You know, he's young. He's getting better at a tremendous rate. He's already extremely good, and you can't hide the talent that he has. I think just race reps and understanding who he's racing and race craft, and then you know, frankly, us getting our program better and strengthening our weaknesses as a company and as a team, and just us, you know, getting more reps and communicating more together. I mean, I think that's a large part why we've been wholesale better this year, is just we have some experience with each other, and we figured out what he needs in his cars, and figured out magnitudes of those changes just by blunt force and doing it.
Sorry, additional questions? Okay, we're going to go to Steve, and then we'll come over here to Dustin, Mike, and Trent.
Steve Conway, the podium finish. Adam, even though it's a road course win, going into the next round, what do you feel momentum-wise? Where do you guys feel that you may have strength and weaknesses to try to move on to that championship round in Phoenix?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of momentum, because we were dead in the water until just a few laps to go there. So, and we did everything that we needed to do and planned to do today, and performed to the ability of our equipment and our setups. So as a team, we did a good job, and Bell did an exceptional job staying under his tires and just getting what the car had in it, and then getting up on the wheel when we had that tire advantage. So we feel really good about that. Those 5 bonus points are good. I haven't had a chance to look at who's in and who's out and where they stand and all of that. But our intermediate stuff's been really strong. There's no reason why we can't go to Vegas and win. You know, Homestead is the best thing we have to compare is probably Darlington. Bell got some laps there testing, and they were halfway decent. We should have something decent to unload with. I think we can make that better and run well there. You know, Martinsville, that will be the struggle point for sure. But if we can go run solid top 5 and get stage points and threaten for a win in the first 2, I think we can be enough of a factor to squeak through this round.
Okay, we're going to go to Dustin and Mike.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Adam, I'm curious, obviously your previous experiences, championships, they've been you've gone through various struggles and various challenges, and I'm curious, not necessarily to compare with that, but what you had to go through this season. And you guys start off, I think, with more top 20 finishes are worse than 20th and top 10s the first 10, 12 races. You changed your pit crews a lot of times. You weren't supposed to win on a road course because Toyota couldn't win on a road course and did that. It's just what this, I guess, journey to this point has been like this season.
Yeah, it's been something. You know, the first part of the year there, we fell all the way back to like 32nd in points, and it wasn't because we weren't running well. We just weren't finishing well, and that was quite a hole to climb out of, which started at COTA. And COTA, we had all those steering issues and still came back to finish third, you know. But it's been a lot of overcoming adversity this year, and you mentioned some struggles over the wall, and we've done our best as a company to improve that. We still have a ways to go, but it's a point of focus, and those guys we have are super dedicated and working hard to be their best. And they had a good day today, especially the last two stops. And I told Mel, you know, this week, and all of these championships, every one that I've been in, and making a run to get to that final race, you always have your skin of the teeth moment. And I haven't had one quite like we just had today, but there's been multiple times with KB and I. Gosh, I think we made it to the final race 4 or 5 or 6 times in a row. I don't even know. But 2 or 3 of those years, we barely got through one of the rounds. I remember Dover came down to a point one year. Martinsville came down to a couple points. So you always have those moments, and I think we just had ours, and hopefully this next round will set up well for us, and we can be a factor.
How was it to get through today? And I guess, is it, you know, just with the challenges, obviously it didn't look good, but obviously you run the full distance because you never know. But what was it like just getting to that point, and how desperate it looked?
Well, it was pure desperation. I mean, we came in here knowing that we needed to win, and knowing that we probably weren't going to have the speed to just drive by everybody and do it. So we talked about it. You know, we can run, if we do our jobs to the best of our abilities, we can run 4th to 7th, and what we need to do is put ourselves in the first couple rows on a late race restart. That's what we need to do, and anything can happen going into that first turn. And it was looking like we weren't going to get a caution, and we were just going to finish 7th or wherever we were running, and that would have been about what we would have expected, you know. So we did get that caution, and it got a little crazy, and we were forced to do something different than those leaders. And Bell, to his credit, just got up on the wheel and took advantage of those tires on that restart.
All right, hold on one second. Before we go to our next question, we have been joined by our race-winning owner, Coach Joe Gibbs. Coach, thank you for joining us. We'll now take questions for Adam and or Coach. If you have one, continue to raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Embry, NBC Sports. Adam, obviously it's hard to pass here. Christopher made it look pretty easy there at the end. Obviously the tires were a big factor in that. But what did you see from him over those last couple of laps that wasn't there before?
Well, you know, I think that it's hard to describe how much of a grip advantage you have with 30 laps difference on tires. It's exceptional. So, you know, and we were able to make time when we had tires earlier in the race. So you can just press the braking zone so much harder, and your minimum speeds are so much higher. I mean, really, the guys in front of you just don't have a chance when that happens. But you can easily get bottled up, too. If they're 2 wide or 3 wide in front of you, you're not going anywhere. So you have to be aggressive and make those aggressive moves and get through there. And, you know, I think his dirt racing experience probably really helped that lap when on that first restart with the tires. There's just people everywhere, and you got to put your car where they're not, and you got to be aggressive, and that just suits him. It suits him to be coming from behind like that rather than trying to fend him off with old tires.
All right, we're going to go to Trent and then Kelly.
Hey, Trent with FrontStretch.com. You mentioned, you know, you're kind of like settling there, you know, before that last caution and kind of accepting that's where you guys were going to finish and everything. But once that happened, what is it like as a leader for that mental shift to switch from accepting, I guess, your fate and then having something like that to completely flip the switch to, oh, okay, we have a shot, we can do this, we can win this thing and make it?
I mean, that switch doesn't go off until the checkered flag really falls, to be honest. You're always asking yourself, what's the right move if this situation happens. That's what you're doing the entire time you're sitting there is prepping for the next situation that might unfold. And quite frankly, I think the field expected some more cautions today and different opportunities for strategy, and it just didn't shake out there till at the end. And we were certainly ready and had talked about these type scenarios prior to the race unfolding, and lo and behold, it just happened right there in front of us. But we certainly were not going to win. We weren't going to transfer from 7th or 8th with 4 or 5 to go with old tires in front of us. It just wasn't going to happen. So thankfully we got that caution and we were able to make something happen.
All right, Kelly, go ahead.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Adam, after you put the tires on, it comes down, we end up having 2 more restarts. And he's, as you said, driving the wheels off it. You at that point are just a spectator. So what is it like to know that it's in his hands and watch how those final 2 restarts played out?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you are at that point. You're just watching, and you're not chit-chatting on the radio. You're letting him focus and letting the spotters do their jobs. And you're really anxious to see how those first couple corners go, because we saw a bunch of them in the wall down there in Chaos Corner, the turn 1 or whatever they call it. But it was pretty crazy. So he has to get through there, and there's nothing you can do to help him get through there. So you're just watching and hoping for the best. And with Christopher on a restart like that, with his experience and his skill level, that's the situations that he thrives in. So he's looking for those type of opportunities.
You also mentioned the skin of your teeth moments that are going to happen in the playoffs. After having an average finish of 4.0 in the first round, to even be in this position with how this round has gone, what has kind of that high to these lows and back up to a high again been like over these last 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, the low was Texas not going our way. We felt like we could go to Texas and be a factor for the win, and we didn't have a great practice day, but really righted the ship with our race setup, and we felt like we had good speed and balance to get up there and race for it, and just started blowing tires. And when that ended our day and we got out of there with 2 or 3 points, we knew we were in bad shape. Speedways haven't been too kind to us, and Talladega wasn't too kind to us. And we felt like being behind going into Talladega, that we had to go down there and race for points and try to close that gap, and it just didn't work out for us. Predictably, we've really struggled to finish as well. Even though we were started on the pole and had the number 1 stall, we couldn't turn that into any points either. So this round was going to be the hard round for us, and we knew it, and we probably made it a little bit harder than it could have been. If we'd have had a Texas like we expected and we're certainly capable of, we just would have had to come here and had a solid day, and we did have that solid day going. So we dropped the ball as a team at Texas, but we're able to pick it back up and hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer today.
All right, we're going to come up front to Greg. We'll go to the press box after that and then come back downstairs for some more questions. Go ahead, Greg.
What's going on with these toe links? It seems like they don't have a hard hit on the wall, and all of a sudden, there's a driver behind the wall with a freaking toe link. Is there something that's inherently, weaker than this? Is there a weak spot, or what's going on with it?
Well, I mean, I don't know how hard the 5-car hit today, if that's what you're referencing specifically.
Also the one.
Yeah, I don't know specifically. But the toe links are made to be the weakest link of the suspension. So you don't break everything else in the suspension. The toe links are cheap, cheap meaning they're the least expensive part. And we have had a design revision to the fronts or the rears. I think the rears, they made them a little bit thicker and a little bit stronger cross-section midway through the year. And maybe they need to make them a little bit stronger. But if you have a direct hit on a wheel, something's going to bend, and it's been that way for years. We just haven't had a toe link in the rear with a solid axle car. We have independent suspension on all 4 wheels now, and you see the rears bend more because the fronts are connected to the steering wheel, and if you take a shot in the wheel, it jerks the wheel out of your hands, right? And the rears are connected solidly, and if you take a shot in the wheel, it's going to bend something, and it bends the toe link.
Thank you. And Coach, talk about your emotions. I mean, he's got to be the game face, but you can be. What was it like watching those final laps, especially seeing Chris come up from nothing to winning?
The amazing thing was about the day, if you had picked a cutoff race for us that would have been the worst cutoff race. It would have been a road race. All of you guys know that. We've been off with that, worked extremely hard after every single one of them. But you would probably say for us, the Toyota camp, that would be the toughest thing for us to overcome. And I just think if there was a race that I've been a part of that was a total team effort, this certainly was it. The call that Adam made was just a great call. Took guts. Our pit crew are the young guys on that car, and they were after it. I always feel bad for everybody back at the shop, Coy and everybody that leads the operations group, because they don't get to experience the winner's circle, and we have so many people back there that pay such a big price for us. So I would say that, you know, it's just one of those things I love about sports is, hey, God bless us with a great day, and you wouldn't think that this would play out the way it played out, but I sure appreciate everybody and the teamwork and everything. I think it really showed that this sport is total teamwork. It takes everybody working together.
All right, we're going to go upstairs for a question to the press box.
Bruce Martin with Speed Sport. Adam, after 104 laps where the only cautions were for the 2 stage breaks, were you ever beginning to wonder if we'd see the caution?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, honestly, when we got through the first 2 stages, or the first stage and a half without a caution, it really affected our strategy for the final stage and what we were thinking was going to need to happen to put ourselves in position. And yeah, so we had to make a little bit of an audible early in stage 3, but it was wild. You know, it was odd that we didn't get one. Usually you see somebody put a couple tires in the grass on the exit of 4 or 5 and get into the barrier and have an issue, but not today. So kind of Talladega was strange that way too. Just didn't see the cautions that we all have come to expect. So I don't know if the tide's turning or those are just 2 anomalies, but we'll have to see when we get to Vegas.
And, Coach, was that a 2-minute offense, win in overtime, or a Hail Mary?
I think you got it. I think that's kind of what it was for me. And I always think, too, on a win like this and something like this that happens, that I think back to J.D. spent his whole life building our race team, and so I always think about him, and our whole family does. So big deal for us, very emotional, and just we love being a part of all of this and getting a chance to compete against, you know, the best race teams and in the world. So it's a thrill when you get a chance to win something like this.
All right, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, Barry Richmond, Piedmont Broadcasting Corporation, WAKG. Adam, with now continuing as a contending team for the championship, the obvious is that you go for wins each week, but does a strategy change? How does that change?
I think it's track to track. You know, certainly we came here thinking we weren't going to have race-winning speed, and we needed some circumstance and some opportunities to take advantage of, and thankfully we got some late in the race. We're going to go to Vegas, and we are going to have race-winning speed. We're going to go to Homestead, and we are going to have race-winning speed. So you're not going to have to do anything that's out of your immediate power to have a good weekend. You know, you're going to have to race the guys you're racing and maximize those weekends. You know, we'll sit down tomorrow and evaluate the points and evaluate who's still in and see what their strengths and weaknesses are too, and kind of predict what they can produce in these next 3 races and see how that lines up with what we think we can produce. You know, it's might not take a win for us to get out of this round. It depends on everybody's bonus point situation and how capable they are. But as a team, I know we're as capable as anyone at the first 2 races, and hopefully we can build enough of a gap where we can just go have a solid day at Martinsville.
And for Coach Gibbs, with the transition that things are going through now with veteran drivers exiting and younger up-and-coming drivers needing the direction and cultivation, just talk about what that process is going to continue looking like, especially moving into next year.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a process that pro teams go through. You know, you see it in the NFL when I was there. And you have the veteran guys that kind of lead and can certainly, if they've won big games and big races for you, you certainly lean on them. If you think about it, Christopher's been in our competition meetings with Martin Truex, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin. And I think that's a huge learning thing for him and has really helped him. And, at some point, you do have younger guys coming. And I appreciate Toyota because they always have been a part of our game plan to really be looking in the future, who's out there, who's coming.
All right, we're going to go to Jenna.
We can hear you.
Jenna Fryer, Associated Press. Joe, it's been a tough couple weeks for NASCAR, and you've been involved in another sport. You had Dave Alpern represent you in the meeting this week. What's the path forward, do you think? And Dave presented a pretty dire picture saying that you guys are spending all your time fundraising instead of working on your business. So how dire of a situation is it right now?
Well, I think what which happens from time to time in sports, for sure. The ownership of the race teams are trying to look for a better way forward financially, and NASCAR certainly has all the things they have to do financially, talking about tracks and everything they have to do as far as promotion. So there comes a point where it comes to a point sometimes where it's negotiating and working together and solving the problems. And at some point, you always reach a conclusion. So I think that's kind of where we are.
Is there a conclusion that can be reached that is favorable to the teams?
I think there is. I think, common sense on both sides and looking at, a path forward financially. I think that definitely is something that we can do. I think it's people that really care, and they care about the sport. And so hopefully both sides will go after it and talk our way through this and work our way through it.
All right, we're going to come back up to Kelly for a follow-up.
Yeah, Adam, just one more. A win like this, it's very rare, I feel like, that a team, it's a walk-off win, right? Like, we always hear about, they have to win or they have to do this, but you guys had to win this race. Very rarely, it seems like, does that happen. So what does this do for the team? Is it a swagger thing? Does it boost the confidence back up, or does it not do that but send a message to the garage that we're still legitimate contenders?
Well, I think it might do a little bit more of that if we led all the laps and won both the stages. We performed to the level of our setups in our car today and took advantage of an opportunity, which is what we had to do and what we talked about our avenue to win. So I think what it does is, it lets people know that we don't have any quit in us. We came here to do a job and perform to the level and capability of our stuff, and we were able to do that. And Bell was able to, get up on the wheel when it mattered. But I think the garage has seen that out of Bell for a long period of time, so that didn't surprise anyone. But I think that the way that our cars have run and how we performed as a team at the intermediates really bodes well for us. And there were probably a lot of people that were hoping we were out of that next round.
All right, additional questions? All right, we're going to take one final question from Trent.
I asked Kyle after the race, if he had any tips or help for Christopher going to the next round, and he said he's got the best crew chief in the garage leading him, so he doesn't need his help. Joe, you mentioned a while ago about cultivating the young guys, but also having these older veterans for him to learn under. What kind of loss will that be for you next season without him being here?
Yeah, I've talked to Kyle and just told him really pulling for him and Sam and the family. And I want the rest of his racing career. This guy's going to win a bunch. We know that. He's a great competitor. And when you think about it with us, 15 years, that was awesome. And, you know, just really appreciate that so much. And we know Mars is leaving, but that was a thrill to be with them for that amount of time. And so I just think, you know, we worked hard at trying to get everything done there. We couldn't. And so I think he's found a home, and I'll be willing to bet he's gonna be after it next year, and he's gonna win a bunch of races.
All right. Joe, Adam, congratulations both on this win today, and we wish you the best of luck next week in Vegas.
Thanks, man.